After a long delay, we finally have challengers appearing at a court and a Cineplex near you. I am Tim Melton here to talk about the latest Zendaya feature that is set to create some waves this weekend for sure. Mr. John Lunsford, you are my co-host on the Meltdown daily, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern, and this was one of your most anticipated movies of not only 2024, but also of 2023, because that's when we were originally supposed to see this thing back in September.
Yeah, this is one that I've been looking forward to for a while. I guess multiple Zendaya things, because Dune was also supposed to release last year and then came out this year. So it's been Zendaya heavy here to start off, but boy, this is one I was very much looking forward to because it was, you know, on top of a good romantic movie, also looked like it could be a decent sports movie as well. And I feel like we don't get a lot of sports movies. When you think, what are the best sports movies? You go back, way back in time. I remember Hoosiers, and I remember this. Then I thought, hey, this might be a pretty good sports movie on the list too.
It is a sports movie for sure. It is a relationship drama for sure. It has a love triangle, plenty of intrigue, and it's hoping to attract a younger audience to the theater. Will it be successful at that? Well, our resident young person, that's Tyler, producer here on the Meltdown. Tyler, you are a young person. Did this end up resonating with you? Because they're really going after, if at all possible, a group that skews much younger than what the average film opens up to. They're looking for 18 to 24-year-olds.
I don't know if resonate is the right word, but I enjoyed the movie a lot. Zendaya is just always going to be a box office draw for my crowd or my age demographic because of Euphoria, because of Dune, because of her time on Disney Channel as well.
And John, her social media presence, she has one of the largest in the entire world, and that is something that benefits the promotion of a film like this, which is why you saw that delay. They couldn't in September promote the film the way they wanted to because of the strikes, that they had to delay this thing in order to get that oomph from Zendaya, not only with her racket, but also with her following on all these different social media outlets and all these different mediums to where she can attract a younger crowd to the Cineplex.
And of course, Tom Holland is good promotion as well. You know, I feel like the one thing I heard from everybody, you feel like you said it, my wife said it, a lot of people said, boy, what if Tom Holland was in this movie? What if it was him and Timothée Chalamet, her Dune co-star in this movie?
It would be raining dollars.
It would. You know, and that's not a shot at the two that were in it because they're really good. But it's interesting, you know, seeing this movie and seeing that she is basically the star power behind it, but she can promote it very well. She is a fashion icon now that every you know, premiere she went to wearing something different, which I think she started with Dune, wearing some wild stuff when promoting Dune, so that then when this movie finally could come out after the fact, because originally it was going to be before Dune, I believe, in 2023. Now it comes out after Dune in 2024, that her fashion to Dune was like crazy. So it's like, I can't wait to see what she does for Challengers. And she did it for Challengers.
Yeah, didn't she wear a tennis ball?
She did. She wore tennis balls on her shoes. She wore all kind of stuff. She wore this. I'm not a fashion person, but I mean, she was all out with her fashion for both Dune and this, making viral moments within the press that helped promote it.
Okay, we don't often agree on movies. Maybe we get slandered as being told we agree on film too much. Go see our Civil War review, and that's all you'll need to know. But this movie's looking to dethrone Civil War as the number one movie in the country. I think it will be successful at that. But minus the box office, let's talk about the actual performances that we saw on screen. Challengers stars Zendaya as Tashi Duncan, a former tennis prodigy turned coach and a force of nature who makes no apologies for her game on and off the court. How did you think, Tyler, Zendaya handled the role of being completely cold-hearted and focused on one singular thing, and that is tennis and her love of that sport? Her character calls it a relationship in this movie, and she treats it as her most valuable relationship, as she's willing to turn a cold shoulder to anybody who gets in the way of her and her tennis hopes and dreams.
Her performance was incredible. For the first time in my life, I saw Zendaya in something and felt angry towards her for the entire duration of the film. I just could not believe how well she played. Cold-hearted, manipulative. She killed it.
There are so many moments that almost demand an audience reaction, a verbal audience reaction.
There were plenty in our showing.
A oh, I can't believe that. Oh my gosh, no, you didn't. Those sort of things from this movie that, John, it will go down as one of the most memorable movie-going experiences I've had. When was the last time you were in a packed crowd where you felt the buzz in the crowd? Now, we went to an early screening. These are people who wanted to see the movie.
Yeah.
This wasn't a matinee where people are going, what's playing? I'll just kind of waltz in there. This was a crowd that was amped for this movie, and I don't think we'll ever be able to replicate, even if by going this opening weekend, the energy level that was in that auditorium for this film, and it enhanced the experience for me. Did it annoy or enhance the experience for you?
It overall enhances the experience for me as long as you react to the things you're supposed to react to. There were a lot of dramatic choices made in this movie, and its cinematography, and its editing, and its music from Trent Reznor. Everything from this had a purpose, which I like, I can appreciate. But I think there were certain things that people would laugh at that it's like, I don't know if you're supposed to laugh there. I mean, hey, if you find enjoyment from it, great. I'm not going to I'm not going to stand up and be like, why did you laugh at that?
This is a spoiler review. Get right into what it is.
There's a scene in it when obviously the whole thing is framed around the tennis match between the two at the end at the Challengers event. And they start slowing it down, and you can hear the grunts and moans that they make playing tennis, which anybody that has watched a professional tennis match ever in your life, every single person, male or female, makes those noises when they hit it. They're putting so much power behind the shots. They're not doing it for effect. They're not like, hey, this is going to be funny. I'm going to go, when I hit the ball. They legitimately are putting that much effort into it.
I understand, but I think that it was very much a creative choice to make those sounds as prevalent as possible after building up sexual tension throughout the entire movie and having that sound be amplified over and over and over again. That was no just coincidence.
But I could just tell it's supposed to hit a certain point that you've done it enough that then it's like, oh, they're going over the top with this. The first time it happened, though, like literally the first time you heard anybody grunt hitting a tennis ball, the woman at least sitting next to me, not my wife on the other side, started giggling at that. And it's like, that's just tennis, right? Yeah. Like, so when we're going to slow it down and amp it up, as Jim likes to say with things on the next round, that's exactly what happened. And she really started dying laughing. I'm like, I get they're doing it for kind of comedic and dramatic effect, both at the same time. But chill, come on, just a little bit. But one of the best reactions, and this doesn't pass in-game at all, so don't take it as that. But in-game is the best reaction ever in the history of mankind that will never be surpassed.
Never be surpassed.
But I got the same feeling for the first time of like, whoa, when at the very end, when he takes the tennis ball and puts it in the triangle.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant.
Which is a great callback to then something that had been done earlier in the movie. But when he takes the tennis ball and puts it in kind of, it's not really exactly a triangle, but in between the racket
neck.
And the neck of the racket, when he did that, and of course, not that we didn't know that it was, you could tell it was building up to that point, but then the reaction and the audible reaction from the crowd of like, oh, that's how he told him in the middle of this match in a pivotal time as it's getting down to its conclusion, and the reaction from Art and everything, that was like, they could have stopped the movie right there and it probably still would have been a good ending to me. But, that's the kind of reactions that it's like, oh, we know he's going to do it. And once he does, and the reaction from everybody, oh, no, he didn't.
I'm going to top one for you. I think there's a moment that actually tops that one, same sort of situation. But when Patrick is trying to approach Tashi after she gets injured, and he gets shut down by his best friend in an audible way for the very first time, the entire crowd was like, oh my, because no one's expecting it. The way it's going back and forth, you're like, okay, Tashi v. Patrick, Tashi v. Patrick, Tashi v. Patrick. And then next thing you know, boom, Mike Faced, I believe is his name, which, by the way, that is one negative that we pointed out of the film, is that the star power of the other two leads, it's not a marketable thing the way that it could have been with two other actors, but they're incredible in this. And when that moment happens, it really pays off for a moment of, wow, and you never quite see the two friends have a resolution from that moment. It just immediately starts going into his story with Tashi instead of the ex's. But that's an incredible scene. There's so many moments of, wow, I can't believe that happened. And look, this is a movie that doesn't do it cheaply. It earns it. And that's why I'm such a big fan of this movie. There's not a gun that's introduced into this. There's not a significant death or illness There's no sort of plot device that is injected into this, minus, you could say, Tashi's injury, but there is nothing that seems like it's coming from the outside world and infecting these three characters in their relationship that advances it in a way where you're like, ooh, I think a murder is about to happen, or something that a relationship drama falls into the tropes of. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it is built with the words in which these characters are using, the motivations they have, and every bit of it is believable. I give this movie tremendous credit for building intense, real drama that you can believe.
Well, and even the injury, it's kind of the thing, like, you can't just have a random car crash and somebody dies and then it's like, oh, I was supposed to care about. Like, one of my biggest complaints, and this is a random movie to bring up, but one of my biggest complaints with a movie like American Fiction that won Oscars, was nominated for Best Picture, and was one of the highest received movies of last year, one of my biggest complaints is it didn't earn the death of his sister. Which I don't even know if you've seen it yet. That's a spoiler, but it's
not sure any of us have all seen it, but anyway, it's out there
seen
now.
It's in the first like 15 minutes that his sister, who's the second billed person with Tracy Ellis Ross, I believe it was, is like billed like, oh, she's gonna be in the movie. She dies 15 minutes in. It's like, I don't care. But like, he's hurt by it, and that sets the story to then kind of tell the story from that point. I don't care about it. You can't just have, we're gonna start with somebody dying you don't know, and then we're going to build into, oh, you should care from now on. And all of this, the main character's emotions, you should just believe because, oh, somebody died in the past. With this, it built up to the injury being the main kind of turning point, when she literally turned her knee into a million pieces. That,
great close-up practical shot of that, too, which made the entire audience gasp.
It's one of those that, you know, when it happens at a football game or something, they're like, we're not going to show you that one, even though they've probably already shown it about 5 times by that point. But it was the fight between her and Patrick that then led to him not being at that event, which led to Art then being, oh, I'm a little curious why he's not here. And that then ultimately led to the blow up that he had that really fully separated everything and solidified him as, hey, he's now with Zendaya instead. That I feel like it earned building. Now the pivotal moment, injury, death, whatever is going to happen, then it's going to happen, and it's earned it at that point, as opposed to happening in the first part of the movie. Honestly, I didn't know when exactly it was going to happen. I didn't even remember she was wearing Stanford stuff in the trailer because they show the injury in the trailer. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, hey, this is going to be a turning point of why she becomes a coach. But watching it happen halfway through the movie or so, you have earned every aspect of that too. Then you could have killed her at that point, and it was earned at least. It may have changed the story, obviously, moving forward, but like, you could have done anything at that point. You had earned, you've built up to this peak of, now we're going to make some crazy event happen.
Tyler, every fight in this movie matters. Every one of those sequences. And it doesn't matter if it's the two guys, it doesn't matter if it's one of the guys. And Zendaya, every time there's a conflict, it works in this movie. At least it did for me. Was it the same for you?
Yes, for the most part. The movie jumps around a lot, and that was disorienting in some points. Like one of the cuts, it just says the day before, and then so you're like, hang on, the day before what? We just saw them as they were in college, and it's cutting to the day before the tournament, and so you've got to all keep that in context. That was kind of annoying at some points, but the overall slow drip of the drama and what led to Art and Patrick not really being friends anymore, how that all went down was really good. Everything
about this movie, John, teases and tantalizes the audience. And it's giving you a drip of information. And the minute that your cup is full, they immediately pour it back out and you restart the drip with a different timeline of events that adds even more context.
They show a lot of drips in this movie. You could have gone, I thought you were setting up for a joke there, because they literally get very up close and intimate with the tennis match, especially that it's framed around, showing how hot and sweaty they get. It's a movie that's very much trying to be very sexy while also very dramatic and intense, and show how intense sport in general can be. It just happens to be around tennis. That's, I thought at first I was not going to like using the framing device of that match of like, we're going to jump right into present day, and B, the jumping around. I think the jumping around they did good. The one time they said the next day you had to get through the clip for a little bit before you saw the logo for the Challengers event they were playing in, and Phil's Tire Shack or whatever it was that was sponsoring that Challengers event. So then I realized, oh, okay, this is the day before. And then, of course, it played out because of the storm and everything. Once she went out, saw Patrick, they slept together in the car and all that. But it literally showed you throughout how intense that one match was, building as to why it was so intense, and ultimately getting to the conclusion of she cheated on him again. But there was literal drip, drip, drips the entire time, and I thought you were setting up a joke.
I was not. The cinematography, though, at one point they're just showing off. I mean, when they start to go with the first person stuff, and they start to go with the now you're going to be the tennis ball that's being bounced back and forth. The audience really is a emotional tennis ball watching this movie.
Yeah,
being bounced back and forth by all of these characters. It works, I think, on almost every level but one. There was one thing that kept it from being a perfect movie for me, and that is I do not buy near 40-year-old Zendaya or whatever, however old she's supposed to be, and just the way she walks and the attitude on her face and all that stuff. I bought her being the teenage version of Zendaya. I bought her being the college-age version of Zendaya. I did not buy sassy, older Williams sister version of Zendaya. I didn't buy it. I couldn't get into it. I didn't think they did enough to advance her the way that they did the guys. The guys I bought that, younger guys, college-age guys, older guys.
You didn't believe that Zendaya was 15 years out of college at the tennis match?
The thing is, she's only a few years out of college in real life, or that age. I think she's 27. But, the thing is, changing the hair, all they did was change the hair on all of them. They went from long, shaggy kind of boyhood haircut with
they just gave her a soccer mom haircut.
To then give her a shorter one.
Undercuts her entire performance.
They made Patrick grow out a scraggly beard because he was basically homeless. And then for her, they just cut her hair. And that wasn't quite enough to do it. She looks, this is one of the complaints my wife had about the movie. My wife has consumed her from day one on the Disney Channel. And she's still Disney Channel Zendaya to me. It's even harder in a movie like Dune or Euphoria, where she's at least playing a high schooler in that, but it's a very adult in nature show, and she's a drug addict and all that stuff. She said, I'm still watching Disney Channel Zendaya from day one of that movie to present day of that movie, no matter what. My biggest complaint, though, also has to do with Zendaya, and what kept it from a 5-star for me. I could get into that enough. She's played various ages. I feel like Dune has been different than Euphoria and all that. So that didn't bother me quite as much. At the beginning, they're playing in a juniors tournament, and maybe I'm wrong on this. I don't know. But this would have been 2006, I think, was when they were playing in that, around that time.
Either 06 or 07.
Because 2019 was what present day was in it. She was still in high school, getting ready to go to college, accepted a full ride to Stanford, but she was at a party that Adidas had her plastered all over promoting Adidas. That would have been illegal. In the NIL world of today, that could fly. That would have been illegal back then. It's how on earth, because they go through this whole thing with Patrick about why on earth are you going to college? Why not just turn pro, take that money, do everything that you possibly can? And she's at an event where she is plastered on Adidas posters everywhere, and I feel like that would have been massively illegal back in the day. And so it's when it comes to sports, we have worked in sports media most of our career. You got to get the sports right in sports movies. And when it doesn't get the sports right, Draft Day is a terrible sports movie because it doesn't get the sports right. There's no way Draft Day would play out the way Draft Day does. And as we're recording this on the day of the NFL draft, that's why I popped to mind. But they got the sports wrong, I feel like, to start off with.
Sports business side
the sports
wrong.
business wrong to start off with. That then it kind of took me out of that. How am I supposed to believe where they are in their sports journey when you go back in time? And maybe that's a small thing, and maybe tennis is different. I don't know.
And she's very adamant that she hasn't turned pro at that point because she wants to go to college, because she wants to become someone smarter than who she currently is.
Had she already accepted the scholarship? Because I just remember at the conversation when they all go down to the beach, she mentions visiting the school, but had she said that she had accepted a full ride?
When Art made some comment about, I'm going to Stanford too, and she's like, yeah, well, I'll see you in class, basically. It was basically happening. But, and I know that's a very small nitpick, but it was just a little weird at the beginning to say the whole point of this is she turns into the sports business side of thing when she gets injured for Art. That's it kind of was wrong to begin with, but maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know.
But her performance is undercut by a couple of things that were easy fixes, and that stinks. And with your gripe and with mine,
yeah,
this movie, I'd be fine with it winning a lot of awards. I don't know if it will still resonate come Oscar time. I'd be fine with it, though, other than cannot win hair and makeup. I am against this movie winning hair and makeup. Does not work for me.
Just gives Zendaya a beard and she looks older. I mean, come on.
They've gotten so good at aging people up in movies. So good at it. That to do it so poorly, I think, with your title character, with your lead character, I should say, I just was, that's one thing I was upset with. But overall, for me, a 4.5 out of 5. John, I believe you're at a 4.5 out of 5.
Yep.
Tyler, where have you fallen on it with your final grade?
4.5 out of 5. Like you, I've only got these little nitpicks. One of them is the jumping back and forth, but that works itself out through the scene. And the other nitpick is I love Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross scores. This one was too loud at some points where I couldn't hear the dialogue.
The sound mix, that's a good point.
The mix was not good.
And I'll have to see it again to see if it was just our theater setup or if it's the film.
That is also a good point.
But the sound mix at times made the dialogue incomprehensible of what is happening here. And that was at least my experience.
Was it better where you were sitting, John?
I never missed the dialogue. I can understand how people would miss the dialogue. We saw it in Prime that when their whole selling point is sound. So I do wonder if you go see it.
Sound that you can feel.
Yeah, if you go see it in a normal, I mean, when they're hitting that tennis ball, it's like, oh, I can feel it. But
I was feeling the techno.
Maybe the grunting we heard was from the audience.
You can make that movement with a lot of things that happen.
What is happening here?
But like, I do wonder if seeing it in a regular theater would make it worse, would make it better. I don't really know. It didn't bother me. I like when music is another character on the screen. I think this was. Overall, this is a soundtrack. I don't usually go back and listen to just the actual like score of a movie. I am with this one. It didn't take me out of it at all. It wasn't a negative. There were times I feel like the music got loud on purpose, but I can understand how that would hurt for a lot of people, depending on how your hearing is, that they could potentially ruin parts of the movie for you.
I would like to see a later in the year re-release of this film and revisit it then. Yeah. I'm not sure, based on the fact it jumps around so much with its timeline, if I want to immediately go back in and watch it. I'm not sure. But I do want to see it again, maybe later this year, to see if I still feel the same way about it. I think it's an expertly crafted love triangle tennis movie. And one last thing I want to point out is a major positive in this, and I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but all of the quote-unquote smaller roles, I know there are no smaller roles, but there's a reason they put the list in order of cast. And they're all really impactful because you really have to rely on those three to carry the movie. If it does not work, if one of those legs cannot stand on its own, those three pieces have to work. But they surround them with a bunch of people that inhabit this world, a bunch of actors that inhabit this world. And I really want to point out the person who played the tennis official.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was the one I was going to say.
They stood out so much, and they almost felt like, as much as you're in the audience going, these people are crazy, the tennis official is the one that encapsulates these people are crazy. The only thing I can equate it to is when you're watching the movie Gone Girl, and then Tyler Perry eventually shows up and is like, you people are insane. What the heck? That was the perfect way to make the audience go, okay, thank God. I thought it was just me. It was like, this is the most crazy thing I've ever seen. And it's a similar thing with this movie and Challengers. And I give them a lot of credit for helping cut the tension with characters that come into this world and look at these people as if like, you've been sleeping in your car all night. You're doing this. You're making this decision. Things ain't going right for you, are they?
Brings a good balance.
It did.
The guy doing the match was number one for me, but then the one who gave him half the sandwich that you saw multiple times throughout the movie, because she points back to, hey, I was an official at one tournament, and then they show that tournament, but she pops up a couple times. It is so absolutely minute, but it adds so much more to it.
Bingo. And I'm not sure, I didn't know if we would get around to talking about that, but in my opinion, it's one of those brilliant little touches that not a lot of people are going to verbalize, but that make the experience so much better. And gives you a break from these three drama queens and gives you a chance to take a breath, because that's needed in this film. I wholeheartedly recommend Challengers. It is a movie that I think will still be looked at as being quality throughout the remainder of the year and maybe for years to come. I enjoyed this movie. Hope you enjoyed as well. John, one place where our audience can get a lot of enjoyment, that's our title sponsor, MyBookie.
Go to mybookie.ag. Use promo code next round. You see it right there under the screen. Promo code next round, all one word. You get a first deposit bonus on us. Hey, you can bet on the Oscars. Maybe this one will appear in Oscar season, just like his previous film 2 films ago, Call Me By Your Name did, with Timothée Chalamet in that one. But, who knows if this would appear more if he had Timothée Chalamet in it. But go and bet anything you want to at mybookie.ag. You can play in that casino there. They have all kind of games, slot machines, live casino. You can play with real dealers. Get a first deposit bonus on us. Use promo code next round, mybookie.ag.
The movie, full of tension, also at times funny and entertaining. We would love to know what you think in the comment section below of Challengers starring Zendaya, as we'll continue to have more reviews all throughout the summer of all the latest releases at the box office. Thank you for subscribing to The Meltdown.